Hello there, DJ Trickstar with a quick Ableton tutorial for you. Now this tutorial is literally for anyone who's just bought Ableton and has no idea what they are looking at, what they are doing, but they really just want to start at least doing something and getting some basics out the way. The Ableton that I'm using is version 9.5, which currently is the latest update, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know how into the future you're watching this, but when you open it up, you're basically going to see this. Now the Ableton I've got 9.5 is the full suite version as well. Now you might not have the full version, so it might look slightly different. You probably definitely might have less packs in your library, which are the samples and maybe some of the audio effects and MIDI effects and things like that. You might be a bit cut down, but the good thing about Ableton is once you start playing around, if you really start enjoying it and you realise that you actually want to progress and maybe update the version that you've got, Ableton are very good at giving you a price that will be, say you bought the Ableton Lite one and you want to upgrade to the next level up, they'll obviously knock some of the money off for you, so you don't have to buy the whole thing again. But let's crack on with this quick tutorial. I just want to get through the basics and just show you what you're actually looking at here when you first open it up. Now when you open it up, this is Ableton Session View. Now with the Session View, what you can actually do is load your sort of clips into all of these tracks that you can see and play them normally in a live sort of situation, and then record it down to the arrangement view after that. That is just one sort of workflow that a lot of people take. Not necessarily might not be your particular workflow that you're comfortable with, but a lot of people do enjoy Ableton's Session View, which you're looking at now, and Ableton really was the first to kind of do this kind of view for music making software. So let me just show you what you're looking at here. These four things here that you can see are tracks. Now there's three types of tracks total. These first two here are called MIDI tracks. MIDI is obviously how computers speak musically with each other. That's probably not the best way to put it, but effectively what you need to do, if say you had a keyboard that was plugged into your computer, then what you could do is you could plug that into your computer with a USB, play some keys on there, and these MIDI tracks will recognize that, and if you put an instrument into those tracks, it will play that instrument for you. For example, you might want to play just a grand piano with the keys, or maybe you want to do a drum kit or anything like that. That's how it's registered that way. Audio tracks, they play any audio clips that you've got. So these two here are audio clips, and I'll show you what they do now. For example, if I just drag this in here, this is from Ableton's sample thing. By the way, if you don't know what I just did, this is the browser on the side. It might be open when you first open Ableton, but this little arrow here opens this up, and you can see all these different folders here. Explains fairly well what they all are, but go down to samples here, and you'll see that Ableton comes with an array of samples, dependent on which version that you've got. And you can drag them in there. Obviously you can add your own folders as well, so you can actually add maybe some songs that you want to do. If you're DJing with Ableton, you can do that as well. For now though, we'll just add this simple bass loop. Nice. Okay, and then we'll let's add this one as well. We'll add this too. Okay, so we'll put that there. Now with the audio tracks, you drag them into these clip slots, and you'll see that the little play button has appeared next to them there, and all of the other ones are stop buttons next to it. So if you want to play one of these samples, you just press play there. And if you want to stop it, you just press any of the stop buttons that are on that particular track. Now you can only play one clip in each track at a time. So when you press play on another one, it's actually going to stop the one from before. And you'll notice it doesn't stop it straight away. It actually waits for one bar of music notation to finish. Not music notation, you know what I'm talking about though. And that's up here in the quantization. So as you can see in this little section there, it just says one bar. That means that when I play something, if I play something else, it will wait to the end of that bar before it starts playing it. You can change it up there, but I recommend keeping it as one bar for now. If you need to play two loops at a time, two samples, let's find a drum one to go with this, then you just use more than one audio track. So what have we got here? We got, what's this one? Bit of drum bass. Yeah, thought so. Okay, we'll put that there. And let's just grab another one without listening to it because we are exciting like that. Alright, so now we've got two drum loops. And we can play that with the bass. Now horizontally, you'll see it's lit up horizontally here, wherever I'm sort of selected. That's called a scene, and you can press play on an entire scene with these play buttons right on the side. And there's a stop button right down at the bottom that stops all of the clips all at the same time. There you go. So that's how you do that. Now, some people, what they like to do with scenes is copy and paste certain samples, drag them around, make a whole different scene. So, for example, if I now copy paste that bass there, and I copy and paste the top drums there, and then I'll copy and paste this bass. I'll leave the drum one empty, and then I'll copy and paste both of these again and paste them right there. You can almost create a song going, well, you can create a whole song. Not in this particular instance, I don't think, but you'll get the idea of it. General idea of using the scenes on the side. Okay, so the third type of track I'm going to show you is just down here on the side. They push these ones here to the right because they're a bit different. You can't actually drag any clips into these ones because that's not what they're for. They're for putting effects into, and they're called send and returns. Now the sends are down here. On each individual track, so these two audio tracks have got them down here, and then these are the return part. If you can't see these, it means that you haven't got these selected here. So you can select to not see the sends or not see the returns. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second, but for now. You'll see it's already loaded me up with a reverb and a delay there. So if we looked onto these particular tracks, it's got a reverb audio effect down at the bottom. And on this one, it's got a delay effect down at the bottom. So if I want to add a bit of reverb to my drums, all you need to do is turn up the A because that's where the reverb is. You can see it's added a little bit of reverb. Reverb being echo. If you come from the DJ background, you might be more used to that terminology for it. Now, if you need to add more tracks, just right click into the empty space here, and you can see you can insert an audio track, insert MIDI track, or insert another return track. You can even insert more scenes. I think if you've got the cut down version of Ableton Lite, 8 is the maximum, but you can, if you've got higher up Ableton, like the medium version or the suite version, you can fill it up with scenes and create a whole song that way. For now, I'm just going to delete these MIDI tracks. You might see my face lit up then because I've got the Ableton push in front of me. There we go. Alright, so those are the audio tracks. We'll leave that there just to be nice and simple. Just going to explain around the edges of Ableton. As well while we're here. So right in the top corner here, as I showed you, this is the browser arrow to look at your browser, find the samples of the tracks you want, the clips you want to put in there. You can see this next bit is the tempo. You've got a tap tempo button, so if you want to use your mouse to tap the tempo, you can do that there. You've also got the actual tempo, it tells you what the tempo is there, the tempo display, so you can drag this as high or as low as you want. So if we just play these drums. Whoa! So that's going pretty fast there, and you can go all the way down as well. Oh, freaky sounds, okay. Okay, so we'll leave that there. And there's some nudge buttons, a metronome. So if you were recording something, especially if you're recording it live, you can actually keep yourself in time with that particular tempo. These are the transport controls here. So there's a play for this basically is controlling the transport part of Ableton. So you can see which particular part of the music by bars there. And as we go along here, we'll talk about all of these a little bit later because I don't want to complicate matters a bit too much now. Right here you can use your computer keyboard as the keyboard if you don't own a MIDI keyboard. That's what this button's for there. This one is actually your CPU usage. So if you see this rocking right up into the 70, 80, 90%, you might need to get a better computer, or there'll be other options you can do as well. We'll talk about CPU usage another time though, because right now I can't imagine anyone's got a bad enough computer that you can't play 2 samples on 2 different tracks here. Now this button here, or these 2 buttons I should say, you'll see, notice it's like Ableton symbol. That's because this is a session view where you see things sort of like vertically, as we've been talking about. But you might be used to seeing things sort of horizontally, which means these tracks now are still there, but they're just on the side. And this is what ultimately you potentially as well record into. So if you were recording by pressing record up there and playing this scene, and we look back at the arrangement view, you can see it's constructing that song for me. So if I press stop now, you can see it's started to put it there. And normally a lot of people use the arrangement view for a bit more editing or automation, which is sort of controlling the depth of the effects and things that might happen to particular clips that you're playing as well. More about the arrangement view in another video, but here is back to the session view. And I briefly showed you here that you can get rid of the send and returns by pressing there. They're still there if this is just the view sort of options here. So you can actually view the ins and outs of each tracks as well. It gets starting to get a bit complicated if you don't know about your ins and outs of each of your tracks. Oh, I've got a new message, thank you very much. We've got right down there, track delay. So if you need to move your tracks out of sync with each other slightly, you can do that. And then there is a crossfader as well right there, which you might be used to if you were DJing, and you can select that to be A, that to be B underneath your tracks there, but we can hide that for now. I did say there was 4 different tracks. There is actually 5, but you have to have the 5th one. That's the master track, which is where we were talking about the scenes. Everything goes through the master track. So if you needed to add any effects or anything for the whole particular song, you can put it right there onto the master track. Okay, down at the bottom here, it's a bit of an empty space at the moment, but actually this is kind of sort of like a viewing platform for whatever you're looking at the moment. So if I double click on a drum loop, here we go, it's come up now with the clip view. So you can actually see the whole drum loop. I'll stop the bass and then we'll just play the drums. You can see going through them. You can even zoom in. If you go to the top here and you see the symbol of like a magnifying glass, you can zoom right in to each of the waveforms. This is the loop over here, so you can tell it's looping around, and also because the loop says it's on there, and the warp is on as well, which means by changing the tempo and everything like that, it's all going to stay in time with the tempo. It might not sound very good, but that's what warp is for. There's a lot to do in each of these clip sort of view here, but we can talk about that in more detail, certainly in another tutorial. Now, if I wasn't looking at a clip view here, if I clicked on a reverb track, it can also show your devices, so you can control the parameters of each of the devices here as well. In the corner here is the info view. This should be on automatically if you've just got Ableton, but if not, you can go to view up here and you'll see a little tag there for a tick next to it saying info view is on. I definitely recommend this if you're first starting out, because you put your mouse over your cursor over anything, and it will tell you exactly what that is going to do. I don't know why I pointed at my screen then, you can't see me pointing. But you can see exactly what that particular parameter, what the things are going to do, and yeah, it just really helps you out, especially when you're first starting. And as you can see, I've got mine open. I've been using Ableton for a long time, but sometimes, you know, there's so much information and so many things that you can control. It's nice to know exactly what you are doing when you're making stuff. That is pretty much all I want to sort of show you for now. You can obviously play around as much as you want with everything else if you want to. What I would recommend though, create a few audio tracks just like this, and see if you can make a song or something that's quite interesting out of the samples that you might even have yourself, or maybe you're just using the ones from Ableton, or maybe you just wanted to get into more of like the DJing side of things as well. In that case, maybe maybe what you want to do is get some of your tracks that you've got. Let's put Avicii into that one, for example, and then we'll there's a Calvin Harris one there. Drag songs in there, and certainly if you were using Ableton to DJ with, you can practice using that as well. You'll notice it all still stays in time.
I might be anyone.
Sounds terrible, but you get the idea. Okay, so that is your project for the next tutorial. Then have a play with the audio track. See if you can make a little track yourself. That was a bit confusing, but you understand. See if you can make a song yourself using all of those features that I've showed you. And we'll be back when teaching you a little bit more with the next tutorial. Bye.